Can we be honest with ourselves for just one moment? The writer to the Hebrews tells us plainly, without holiness, no one will see the Lord. Not holiness is recommended, not holiness would be nice, but without it, we don't see God. So here's the uncomfortable question we need to ask. How much energy, how much genuine effort are we actually giving to pursue this thing that is not optional? Holiness. Think about this. God is holy. The scriptures, they're holy. Heaven, a holy kingdom. The Lord's Day, holy. And us, we're called to be saints, which literally means holy ones. Yet somehow there's this massive canyon between what we're called to be and what our lives actually look like on a Tuesday afternoon. How did we get here? Hi, everybody. My name is Pastor Elijah Cho. Here's what I've come to understand. Holiness isn't something that just appears overnight. It's godliness practiced, repeated, lived out in 1,000 small moments that accumulates over time into holiness. Paul warned Timothy about this, didn't he? He said, people would have a form of godliness, but deny its power thereof. And friend, we are living in that age right now. We've become experts at looking the part. We know how to do church. We can perform Christianity beautifully on the outside, but why? Oh, why do we keep denying the power that should be transforming us from the inside out? Let me share with you why. It's because we've mastered religious activity while our inner lives remain untouched, unchanged, unimpacted spiritually. We've settled for hypocrisy, not the intentional kind necessarily, but the kind that comes from formalism, from self-centered faith that's more interested in what God can do for us than in becoming like Him. We've actually flipped the whole thing around. Instead of allowing God to change us, we demand that God conform to us, accommodate our preferences, fit into my schedule. But that's not how faith works. Biblical faith isn't about getting God to serve our agenda. It's about being transformed into God's character. It's about rediscovering who we truly are, and who we truly are is this: image bearers of the living God. That's not just a nice theological idea. That's meant to be proven, demonstrated, made visible in the actual way we live our lives. This is the task set before us. We must absolutely recover the power of godliness. So let me paint a picture of how this works. The foundation of your inner world is love. Without love, your soul becomes a wasteland, barren, lifeless. But into that ground, God plants a seed, the seed of life itself. Through His word, that seed doesn't just sprout, it grows into a tree of life. And here's the thing about trees: eventually they bear fruit. And that fruit reveals everything. It shows what kind of tree you really are. Godliness takes root through faith and perseverance. You cultivate that seed of life with love. You tend it with humility, genuine humility, not the false kind. That's just self-hatred dressed up in Christian language. Real obedience, it belongs to those gentle, to those who've learned to yield rather than demand. And to that person, the one who's truly humble, gentle, and obedient, God grants wisdom and understanding. What's happening inside you eventually shapes what others see on the outside. Inner strength becomes outer character. Inner influence becomes outward fragrance. So you gather them all together: love, humility, obedience, perseverance, gentleness, wisdom, discernment, and they don't just sit there separately. They integrate, they intermingle, they become holiness. Think of it this way: holiness is the whole picture, but godliness is like the individual cells that make up that picture. Holiness is formed in the details of daily life, in how you respond when someone cuts you off in traffic, in what you do with your eyes when temptation flashes across your screen, in whether you tell the truth when a lie is much easier to tell. The holiness that flows from God's character is born within a life of godliness. Now, most people, if we're truly honest, most people make success, wealth, honor their life goals, climb the ladder, make your mark, build your platform. But scripture turns to God's people and says, what matters most is holiness, not your achievement, not your accumulation of things, but holiness. And holiness isn't a mere moral behavior, though it includes that. It's not just religious rituals, though worship does matter. It's a life that actually growing to resemble God's character, becoming more and more like the one who made us. Like I said before, this is not optional, friends. Holiness is essential. Holiness is the essential identity of God's people. When we live holy lives, we finally start fulfilling our calling to be light and salt in this world. Not just talking about being light, but being light. Not just claiming to be salt, but actually being salty. Here's the beautiful and terrifying truth. Holiness is practiced through small daily choices. Every single day, in 100 little moments, you're choosing what is good, what is pure, choosing that godliness, choosing to love when bitterness would feel justified. That's godliness. Choosing to forgive when keeping score seems smarter. That's godliness. But understand this. Holiness isn't merely a choice, it's the outcome of all the choices you've already made. It's the fruit of 1,000 decisions to say yes to God and no to yourself, because God has my every yes. And when God's people live holy lives, that's when the watching world sees and God receives all the glory, not through our buildings or our budgets or our branding, through our lived out holiness, through lives that simply cannot be explained apart from a God who transforms people from the inside out. So, what if we actually took this seriously? What if we stopped treating holiness like an elective and started pursuing it like the necessity it is? What if the same passion we bring to our careers, our hobbies, our relationships, what if we brought that intensity to becoming holy as He is? The world is waiting, looking on, not for better arguments, not for slicker presentations, but people who actually look like Jesus. The question is, will we be those people? Actually, the question goes deeper. Will you be those kinds of people? If you found this content helpful, make sure to press the like button, and I will see you in the next one. May the Lord bless you.